The Daystar television network, a prominent Christian broadcasting entity co-founded by Marcus and Joni Lamb, has found itself at the center of a growing storm of internal conflict, spiritual abuse allegations, and personal disputes. The latest chapter in this unfolding saga involves former Vice President Jonathan Lamb and his wife, Suzy, who have publicly accused his mother, former Daystar President Joni Lamb, of spiritual manipulation, bullying, and coercion. The accusations point to a deeply strained family dynamic and a series of troubling events within the Daystar leadership. At the heart of this issue is a contentious meeting in July 2023 involving Jonathan and Suzy, Joanna, and a well-known pastor, Jimmy Evans. This meeting, along with a series of personal and professional disputes, has raised serious questions about the leadership style at Daystar and the broader implications for the network's reputation and internal culture. The July 2023 meeting, a shocking revelation. On July 11, 2023, Jonathan and Suzy Lamb were unexpectedly called into a meeting with Jimmy Evans, the founder of Exxon Marriage, and a respected voice in the Christian community. The meeting, organized by Joni Lamb, took place as a surprise to the couple, who were already navigating the challenges of family dysfunction and spiritual abuse within Daystar. According to Jonathan and Suzy, the purpose of the meeting was to coerce them into publicly endorsing Joanna's second marriage, an issue that had caused significant tension within the family. Evans, who is known for his counseling work with couples and as a consultant on matters of marital fidelity, shocked Jonathan and Suzy by declaring that they were obligated to submit to Joanna because she spoke for God. Evans reportedly told Jonathan that he could no longer hear from God directly, but needed to hear God's voice through Joanna. This assertion left Jonathan and Suzy feeling manipulated and spiritually controlled. They were deeply troubled by Evans's claims, as they felt that their personal agency and spiritual autonomy were being undermined by someone who was supposed to offer counsel, not impose divine authority. Jonathan's response to Evans's statement was telling. He questioned the notion that he needed to rely on Joanna's voice to hear God, asking, "If God came to you right now and told you that you made a mistake, would you fix it?" Evans's insistence that Joanna's directives were the voice of God only added to the couple's unease. Jonathan and Suzy were uncomfortable with the idea that their spiritual well-being was being dictated by one person, without any room for personal discernment or dialogue. The Lamb family dynamic had already been severely strained due to past events, particularly an accusation Jonathan made regarding a family member who he claimed had engaged in inappropriate behavior with his daughter. This claim, which Jonathan shared in 2021, led to a bitter dispute with his parents, Marcus and Joni Lamb. Instead of supporting Jonathan, the Lambs defended the accused family member, causing a deep rift within the family. In the aftermath, Marcus and Joanna insisted that an internal investigation had cleared the family member of wrongdoing, but Jonathan later discovered that the investigation was flawed and incomplete. The strained marriage of Jonathan's parents. Adding to the complexity of the situation was the revelation of Jonathan's mother, Joanna's second marriage to Doug Weiss, a sex therapist and regular guest on Daystar's programming. The couple's marriage in June 2023 came just a few months after the death of Marcus Lamb, who passed away unexpectedly in November 2021 due to complications related to COVID-19. Jonathan and Suzy were particularly troubled by this marriage because they believed that it lacked proper biblical justification for divorce, especially given that Doug Weiss had been married for 30 years before divorcing his wife in January 2022. Jonathan and Suzy, along with other members of the Lamb family, were vocal in their opposition to Joanna's marriage to Doug Weiss. They felt that it was a violation of Christian principles, and many believed that Joanna had been misled by Weiss, whom they viewed as spiritually unqualified and manipulative. This issue, which had been brewing for months, finally came to a head during the July 2023 meeting with Evans. Spiritual abuse allegations and coercion. Jonathan and Suzy Lamb's accusations of spiritual abuse stem from the way they were treated during the meeting with Evans and Joanna. According to them, Evans's words and actions were designed not to offer counsel, but to impose a controlling and manipulative framework under the guise of spiritual authority. They allege that Evans and Joanna used their perceived connection to God as a tool for coercing them into compliance, particularly regarding their stance on Joanna's remarriage. In a video released to Roy's Report, Jonathan described how he and Suzy felt pressured to endorse the marriage publicly, even though they had deep reservations about it. They were asked to read a comment from a fan praising the marriage, which they declined to do because they did not want their actions to be misconstrued as support for the union. This refusal reportedly angered Joanna, leading to further tensions within the family. The concept of spiritual abuse, as defined by experts in the field, involves using one's supposed relationship with God to manipulate others for personal or institutional gain. Jonathan and Suzy's experience during the meeting with Evans and Joanna seems to fit this description. The couple felt as though they were being spiritually bullied into submission, with their genuine concerns and beliefs disregarded in favor of the leadership's wishes. The role of Evans and Daystar leadership. Jimmy Evans, as a respected counselor and pastor, held significant influence in the Christian community, and his role in the Daystar dispute highlights the complexity of the situation. In his conversation with Jonathan, Evans not only reinforced Joanna's authority as the voice of God, but also criticized Jonathan for challenging this authority. Evans cited scripture, including passages from Romans 13, to support the argument that Jonathan should submit to his mother's leadership because it was divinely ordained. Evans's words seem to suggest that any resistance to Joanna's authority was tantamount to rebellion against God, a stance that deeply troubled Jonathan and Suzy. The couple's protestations were met with further admonitions, including warnings about the spiritual consequences of their defiance. At one point, Evans likened their refusal to submit to idolatry, a sin equated with witchcraft in certain biblical interpretations. This form of spiritual manipulation left Jonathan and Suzy feeling trapped, as though they were being asked to sacrifice their own beliefs and autonomy in favor of a top-down system of control that had little regard for their emotional and spiritual well-being. The fallout and broader implications for Daystar. The fallout from the July 2023 meeting has been significant, both for Jonathan and Suzy Lamb and for Daystar Television Network. The public nature of the accusations and the involvement of high-profile figures within the network, including Jimmy Evans, has cast a spotlight on the internal dynamics of Daystar. The allegations of spiritual abuse, bullying, and coercion threaten to further damage the network's reputation, especially among its Christian audience, who look to Daystar for guidance in matters of faith and spirituality. Jonathan and Suzy's decision to speak out against the network and its leadership reflects broader concerns about accountability and transparency within Christian organizations. The Lambs' experience highlights the risks of centralized power and unchecked authority within religious institutions, where leaders may exploit their perceived connection to God for personal or institutional gain. The case also raises critical questions about the role of family dynamics in leadership and whether Daystar can continue to operate as a respected Christian network while grappling with these internal challenges. Moreover, the marriage of Joni Lamb to Doug Weiss and the resulting tensions within the Lamb family adds another layer of complexity to the situation. The ongoing dispute over her remarriage has become a symbol of broader issues within Daystar, particularly regarding its handling of moral and doctrinal disagreements. With accusations of spiritual manipulation and family dysfunction, Daystar's leadership is facing increasing scrutiny from both within and outside the organization. Conclusion: the need for reform and healing. The accusations made by Jonathan and Suzy Lamb against Daystar leadership, particularly Joni Lamb and Jimmy Evans, serve as a powerful reminder of the importance of ethical leadership and accountability within religious organizations. The events surrounding the July 2023 meeting highlight the dangers of spiritual abuse and manipulation, and they underscore the need for greater transparency, fairness, and respect for individual autonomy within faith-based institutions. For Daystar to move forward, it will need to address the serious concerns raised by these allegations and take steps to reform its internal governance structures. This includes creating a more open and supportive environment for staff and family members, implementing measures to prevent spiritual abuse, and fostering a culture of accountability that aligns with the values of Christian faith. The Lamb family's public struggle is a call to action for all religious organizations to examine their leadership practices and ensure that they are truly serving the needs of their members, rather than using their influence for personal gain. As Daystar navigates this challenging period, it faces a critical juncture in its history. The path forward will require humility, transparency, and a renewed commitment to the principles of love, respect, and accountability that are foundational to the Christian faith. Only by addressing these internal conflicts with sincerity and a willingness to change can Daystar hope to heal its divisions and restore its reputation as a trusted voice in the Christian community. The root of the conflict. The 2023 meeting. In July 2023, Jonathan and Suzy Lamb were called into a meeting with Daystar's president, Joni Lamb, Jonathan's mother, and Jimmy Evans, a pastor and counselor known for his work on marriage and family issues. This meeting, initially framed as an opportunity for reconciliation, quickly escalated into a deeply troubling episode that highlighted the power struggles within the Lamb family and the Daystar network. Joni Lamb, having recently remarried Doug Weiss, a sex therapist, was at the center of much of the family turmoil. Her second marriage had raised serious concerns among the Lamb family members, particularly Jonathan and Suzy, who felt that the union lacked proper biblical justification, especially considering Doug's recent divorce. Tensions had been high for months, as the couple's disapproval of Joanna's marriage clashed with her desire for public support. This led to the fateful meeting with Evans, where Jonathan and Suzy were pressured to publicly endorse the union. In the meeting, Suzy, adamantly opposed to reading a fan's positive comment about Joanna and Doug's marriage, stood firm in her convictions. This act of defiance set the stage for a heated confrontation with her mother-in-law. Jonathan, on the other hand, was caught between his loyalty to his wife and the pressure from his mother and Evans, who insisted that they read the comment as an act of compliance. Suzy's refusal was perceived as a challenge to Joanna's authority, triggering a conflict that would soon spiral out of control. Spiritual manipulation and coercion. The meeting with Evans and Joanna quickly turned into a confrontation over spiritual authority. Evans, a longtime advisor to the Lamb family, reinforced the idea that Joanna's decisions were divinely inspired and that Jonathan and Suzy needed to submit to her leadership. Suzy, however, stood firm in her belief that her convictions could not be compromised simply to avoid conflict. She repeatedly expressed her discomfort, stating that reading the comment would be inauthentic and go against her values. Joanna, in turn, accused Suzy of refusing to honor God's will, calling her unwillingness to comply a sign of rebellion. In a tense moment, Joanna told Suzy that if she couldn't read the positive comment about Doug, she would no longer be welcome in the Daystar Green Room. The situation reached a climax when Jonathan, caught in the middle, was told by Evans that his leadership at Daystar could hinge on whether he managed to convince Suzy to comply with Joanna's wishes. At this moment, the conversation shifted to more personal attacks. Joanna, feeling deeply betrayed by her son's stance, mocked him for being controlled by Suzy, saying, "You've got him by the balls." This was a direct and deeply hurtful comment that left Jonathan feeling emasculated and torn. Suzy, in response, accused Joanna of being manipulative and using emotional leverage to control her son. The conversation became increasingly bitter, with accusations of spiritual abuse and manipulation flying in both directions. The fallout: job loss and emotional toll. The meeting, which was supposed to be a moment of reconciliation, ultimately led to Jonathan and Suzy's downfall within the organization. Following the confrontation, Jonathan was told that his position at Daystar was at risk. Despite his efforts to explain the situation to Joanna, he received a terse response stating that payroll would not be affected at that time, but further discussions would be postponed for 18 months. This was a devastating blow to Jonathan and Suzy, who felt that they had been unfairly targeted and pressured to submit to spiritual manipulation in order to maintain their roles at the network. As the months passed, tensions continued to escalate. On November 16, 2024, Jonathan was officially let go from his position at Daystar. The Lambs' departure from the network marked the culmination of a long period of emotional and professional strain. Jonathan and Suzy were left reeling from the experience, feeling both spiritually and emotionally betrayed by the very organization that had once been central to their lives and careers. The email controversy: blackmail or transparency? In the aftermath of Jonathan's firing, Joanna accused him of attempting to use blackmail to gain the position of president of Daystar. She pointed to a part of an email in which Jonathan allegedly tried to leverage his position to secure control over the network. Jonathan, however, rejected these accusations, explaining that he was simply seeking clarity on the future of the network and his own role within it. His suggestion that Daystar sign a new contract outlining clear expectations for his future role as president, should his mother retire or pass away, was meant to prevent further confusion and establish transparency. Jonathan and Suzy also made it clear that they would not use or release any recordings of their private conversations with Evans and Joanna, as they did not want to create further harm or embarrassment for the family. They emphasized that they simply wanted justice, not power or revenge. The couple's decision to keep the recordings confidential was not an act of extortion, as Joanna claimed, but rather a response to the internal pressures they had faced and the demand for clarity regarding their future at Daystar. The family's struggle for justice and closure. The situation reached its peak when Denise Boggs, a close family friend, informed Jonathan and Suzy on November 18, 2023, that their family member had been exonerated of the molestation accusations. This news, which came after months of emotional turmoil, was a bittersweet moment for the Lambs. Although they had initially sought justice for their daughter and had been focused on clearing the family name, they were now left grappling with the deeper implications of their family's internal conflicts. Jonathan and Suzy's primary concern at this point was not their jobs or their standing within Daystar, but rather their family's ability to heal from the trauma they had endured. The allegations of abuse, the accusations of betrayal, and the emotional toll of the conflict had taken a significant toll on their relationship with their family and with Daystar. Jonathan noted that by the time they received the news of their family member's exoneration, their focus had shifted entirely from career ambitions to personal healing. The broader implications: a family at war. The Lamb family's struggle has become a cautionary tale about the dangers of power struggles and spiritual manipulation within religious organizations. At the heart of this conflict is the question of spiritual authority and the misuse of that authority for personal gain. Joanna's attempt to assert control over her son and daughter-in-law, using their careers and spiritual standing as leverage, has raised serious ethical concerns about leadership at Daystar. The Lamb family's experience also highlights the difficulty of navigating familial relationships within the context of a high-profile organization. The lines between personal, professional, and spiritual lives can easily blur, leading to conflicts of interest, misunderstandings, and emotional harm. For Jonathan and Suzy, their experience at Daystar was not just about career advancement, but about their core beliefs, convictions, and personal relationships. As Daystar continues to face public scrutiny over the internal conflicts that have rocked the organization, it remains to be seen how the network will address these issues moving forward. The Lambs' departure from the organization may serve as a turning point, prompting a re-evaluation of the culture of control and spiritual manipulation that has characterized the leadership dynamics at Daystar. Conclusion: a call for transparency and healing. The saga of Jonathan and Suzy Lamb's departure from Daystar is a story of power, control, spiritual manipulation, and family dysfunction. As they navigate the aftermath of this painful experience, their focus has shifted to healing and justice, not just for their family, but for the broader issues of accountability and transparency within Christian organizations. The Lambs' commitment to transparency and their efforts to protect their own integrity serve as a reminder of the importance of ethical leadership and the need for religious organizations to foster environments of respect, fairness, and personal autonomy. For Daystar, the path forward will require acknowledging the mistakes of the past, embracing reform, and ensuring that the principles of love, respect, and humility are upheld in all aspects of its leadership.